Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today I'm going to be doing my belated July wrap up. It is now a week into August and I still need to wrap up these books, and I did something bad. I took back all my library books. I put away all of my July books before I filmed my wrap up. Rookie mistake. So I just had to go through my shelves and grab what I could find. A lot of books I borrowed from the library or listened on audio, but I'm just going to go quickly through them. Quite a few I talked about in other videos, so we'll just see how it goes. Altogether, I read 24 books in the month of July. 24! I think that might be a record, except for middle grade March, where I usually can get close to a book a day, but those are all middle grade. I did read some middle grade this month, but definitely not all. So 24 books in a month is amazing. I did have some travel in there, so I listened to at least 5 or 6 or 7 audiobooks out of this 24. Let's just go through them quickly. The first 7 books I already talked about in my mid-month July wrap-up. I do have 4 of them here. The rest were either audio or library books. The first one I finished up was a carryover from June, Men We Reaped. It was just okay for me. I love her writing, but I never felt connected, but I think that's because I spread out the reading of this too much. Another one I carried over from June was the last in the Lord of the Read-Along books, Return of the King, which I really didn't like. As far as enjoyment, it was probably 2 stars, but I definitely have a lot of appreciation for Tolkien and his world building and the characters and just the depth of what he created, so I ended up giving this 3 stars. I read for my Goodreads read-along group. One of the books I read was Kitchens of the Great Midwest. This was not a hit for everybody. It was a hit for me. I found it quirky and delightful. Ended up giving it 4 stars. I buddy read Recipe for Persuasion with Rainy from Rainy Day Reads. It was a very fun persuasion retelling, a lot of food, a lot of Indian culture. I loved those aspects of it, but it wasn't the persuasion retelling that I'm still on the hunt for. It wasn't close enough of a retelling, but it was still very fun. I think I ended up giving it 3 or 4 stars. I don't remember. But the other books that I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up were Aisha at Last, which is a Pride and Prejudice retelling set in an Indian American family. Really liked that one very much. Love Lettering I listened to on audiobook. This is by Kate Claiborne. Cute romance, but there were a couple things that were a little too cheesy for me, so that one ended up only being 3 stars, but I did enjoy it. It was a fun read. The only other one I talked about in that mid-month wrap-up was The Silent Songbird by Melanie Dickerson. This one is a Little Mermaid retelling, and I really enjoyed it. But these have all started to become 3 stars for me in that Hagenheim series. They're cute, and I definitely plan on finishing the series. I think I only have 2 left now, but they're all just kind of 3-star. I had about a week between those mid-month wrap-up books and before the reading rush started, and I had a very set TBR for reading rush, but I did get a couple read in that middle time period. The first one that I really enjoyed was A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is a sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This one, we follow some of different characters than we followed in A Curse So Dark and Lonely. The tone of it was a little bit different. It wasn't so much a retelling of any kind of a fairy tale, but it was a continuation of the story that we get in the first one. I did miss the characters from the first one, but I did grow to like the characters in this one. I don't think I liked it quite as much as the first one, but it was still pretty enjoyable, and I will definitely be picking up a third one if it comes along the way. I think there's still some things that need to get ironed out. The next one that I read in that in-between week was Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is one I wasn't sure I was going to read. I talked about it in the Modern Mrs. Darcy Summer Reading Guide kind of review that I did, or summer TBR that I chose. This had gotten a lot of high praise from some people, and I wasn't really that interested in it, but then I found it at a little free library, so I thought I would grab it, and I ended up listening to it on audio, so I didn't need the book anyways. But this was quirky and fun, kind of a found family. These 2 women had gone to like boarding school together and lost touch over the years. One of them is extremely wealthy and very privileged, and the other had gone to that school on scholarship, definitely lower economic class than her friend. They were roommates and they got along really well. Both of them had some quirks in their personality and never really felt like they fit in with the rest of the school that much. But then 10 years later, the wealthy woman hires her old college friend or high school friend to come and watch her stepchildren, who have the ability to spontaneously combust whenever they get upset or nervous. So it's just about this girl, I forget her name, Lillian. It's about her connecting with these kids and bonding with them ultimately, and it was kind of cute. I liked it more than I thought I would. I think I did end up giving it 4 stars because I just thought it was so creative and snappy and fun and just different from anything else that I've read before. So definitely a quick, fun read. I enjoyed it. I then finished another carryover from June, which was Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. I was hoping to finish this. This one was my Goodreads read-along pick for the month of June, and I didn't quite get it done in June. So I did finish it in July. There are definitely some aspects of this book that were very hard to read in talking about. I mean, it was written in the 1960s, I believe. The way that Black people are talked about and that slavery is talked about is definitely from a very Confederate-heavy viewpoint, which was very difficult at times to read. However, I loved watching Scarlett and her growth throughout the story, and she starts out and continues to be very selfish, but she also does care about other people and take care of others as well, but in a strange way. I don't know. It ended up being I ended up being very glad that I finished it, but there came a point where I just wanted to be done as well. I don't know that I'll ever read this again. It definitely was a very different reading experience from the first time that I read it when I was in high school. But I think books like this can also be very important to remember how things were and how people were treated, so that we don't repeat history like this. So yeah, I think it was a good read, but I definitely didn't give it 5 stars. I think it was a 3 or 4. I don't remember. Rating is hard. Ratings are hard. The next one I'm going to talk about is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. I really enjoyed this story. I've talked about what it's about. This young woman who is plus size. She is a fashion vlogger and has quite a following. On her vlogs, she kind of makes fun of or calls out this Bachelor-esque type show called The Main Squeeze, and calls them out because of their lack of diversity when it comes to body type in the show, and is very vocal about that. And one day she's reached out to by one of the producers of the show and asked to become the next Bachelorette on the show, and she agrees to do it with the caveat that she is not planning on falling in love. She just wants to portray a different kind of image for the show and highlight that plus size women are awesome and worthy of love and nothing to be looked down upon. I enjoyed this story very much. I'm a big fan of The Bachelor, so it was fun to kind of imagine a Bachelor world where body diversity is a part of the show. I think we're getting there a little slightly minorly better when it comes to different races being represented, but body diversity is definitely not a part of Bachelor Nation. So it would be kind of fun to see a little bit of that show up in the future. So yeah, this was just a really fun, light read. I mean, it's kind of chunky, but I finished it fairly quickly. It was it was right up my alley. It's just what the doctor ordered for me. Also, I finished the next book in the Hockenheim series, The Orphans Wish, which is a Aladdin retelling. I think I might have finished that at the beginning of the reading rush, so let me, but I'll just talk about it here anyways, because I'm not sure I talked about it too much in my reading rush videos. But yeah, it's Aladdin retelling, again, 3 stars. This series is super cute, definitely YA, but it's fun to see all the different retellings and all of the overlap. We're kind of generations down from the first initial book, so it's kind of fun to see characters pop up again and again. If you're looking for a fun Christian YA fairy tale-esque series, then I definitely would recommend Hagenheim series. But if you're looking for something that's going to be very moving and emotional, this is not the series for you. It definitely does have Christian elements and faith elements, and they talk with God and they pray, and there's a lot of focus on God's plan and God's will and all of those things. So that's just something to be aware of. If that's what you're looking for, then maybe this is the series for you. It is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it, and I'm almost done. 2 more to go. Right before I left for my trip to New York, which is where I spent all of the reading rush, I read No Exit by Taylor Adams. I read this in a 24-hour period, and what a ride this was. Pretty gruesome, definitely not my normal go-to read, but I've been trying to get through some thrillers that are on my shelves. I don't think I'm going to be keeping this on my shelf. It's going in my bag to go to the used bookstore, but I did enjoy the ride of it. So what happens is this young girl is traveling home for the holidays. Her mother is in the hospital with cancer and is not doing well. So she's trying to get home from college. She is driving through Colorado, and there's a big old snowstorm, and she cannot get her little car through the storm. So she pulls over at a rest stop, has to wait out the storm there with the 4 other people that are also at the rest stop. She goes outside to try to get some cell service so that she can make a call to her sister. Isn't able to get any calls out, but as she's making her way back into the rest area, into the building, she sees that in the van parked next to her car, there is a girl being held in there, a young girl. And so she realizes one of these people in this rest stop is holding a girl in their van, holding a girl hostage in their van. So she goes on this journey to try to figure out what to do about this knowledge that she now has. I had so much fun. Not fun. It was not a fun read. But it was very interesting to me to try to put myself in her shoes and what would I do? Because so many times she made decisions that made me scream. I just wanted to yell at her, what are you doing? But if I were in the same position, what would I have done? I probably would have made a lot of stupid mistakes as well. And you don't really realize they're going to be mistakes until too late. So it gets very brutal, very bloody, very gory. It's kind of awful. I definitely would not recommend this to everybody, but it was intense and a page turner, and that's kind of what I was looking for. So do with that what you will, but whoa, what a book. Then we got into Reading Rush Week, where I read 10 books in 1 week. Orphans Wish, and I talked about most of these in my Reading Rush vlog, so I'm not going to talk about them very much here. Orphans Wish I already mentioned. The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren, I listened to the audiobook of that. Was okay with it. Didn't like how much of a pushover the main girl character was at the beginning. The Uncommon Reader was kind of like a love story to reading about the Queen of England discovering a little library on her property and falling in love with reading. Super cute novella. The Penderwicks at Point Muette is the 3rd book in the Penderwick series. Absolutely loved it. Probably my favorite of the series so far. I read Here, which is a graphic novel. Super interesting. Talked about that a lot in my wrap up. Not Like the Movies was a NetGalley book that I just read, and rom-com to the max. Very cute, but just 3 stars for me. Nothing blowing me away there. Lion, A Long Way Home is a nonfiction about a young Indian boy who gets separated from his family, adopted by an Australian couple, uses Google Earth to try to find his birth family. Amazing story, 5 stars. See the movie, read the book. It's so good. Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. I read the book and listened to the audio. So powerful, about a young boy whose brother was shot, and according to the rules that he's grown up learning, his job is to get revenge. So the book all happens in this elevator ride where he meets 8 different ghosts of people who had an impact in their life and what he learns from them. So good. Blended by Sharon Draper is a middle grade novel about a young girl who is in the midst of a custody situation with her parents. Her father is black, her mom is white. She's trying to figure out who she really is, and does she identify as black or as white or both, or who is she? She's in middle school. It's just dealing with divorce, dealing with both of her parents and their new relationships, dealing with her identity and situations at school and being bullied a little bit. Just so much going on. Really good book. I gave it 3 stars because I just felt like there was a little too much going on, but also very good at the same time. So, and then right at the end of the week, I read Una Out of Order. I do have that one here. Creative story about this woman who, right at midnight of her 19th birthday, she wakes up and she's 52 years old. And for the next few years, every year, she wakes up in a different year of her life. So it's kind of a time travel book, but a different twist on that. And what does she learn? She brings all the memories from each of those years with her. So what does she learn along the way? It's really interesting, very compelling. I read it very quickly and absolutely loved it. Gave it 4 stars. Also, on my drive home during Reading Rush, I was listening to Bury Your Dead, which I did finish after the Reading Rush was over. This is book 6 in the Armand Gamache mystery series by Louise Penny. Loved it. Gave this one 4 stars. This is the first one that directly correlates with the 5th book, the book right before it. The mystery from the 5th book kind of continues in this one. We don't spend much time in Three Pines. Armand Gamache does not spend time in Three Pines, but one of his men does. So we follow 3 different storylines in this one. I think I did talk about this a little bit in my Reading Rush wrap up because I was reading it at the time on audio, but yeah, I really did enjoy this one. I'm loving this series. I have book 6 ready to go on audio. That will be my next audiobook, and it's the only one that I don't own, book 6. Well, except for the newest, I think. So I need to keep my eyes out for that one. But yeah, I really love this series. I love the personality of Armand Gamache. I love how he is such a nuanced and in-depth character. And we really have gotten to know him quite a bit over the last 5 books, 6 books now. I love the characters in Three Pines. I love the carryover from the last story to this one. And I'm having fun diving into a mystery every now and then with these. I used to read a lot more mystery than I do now. But it's been fun to dive into a mystery with those. And I've made some good progress in that series this year. I think that's the 4th one that I've read this year. And the last book that I read in the month of July that was definitely my favorite of the month was the other book that I had chosen for my read-along group, and that is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. So good. I love this book so much. I really enjoyed both this one and The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. I do think I liked this one better because I loved all of the characters. So in this one, we do follow this young woman who is recently from England, who got married to this man who lives in the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky. She, things aren't quite the same in her marriage. Once she gets home, she lives with her father-in-law, who is pretty brutal and manipulative and just a horrible man. And her husband turns out to be quite a pushover and just does whatever daddy says. She joins this pack horse library project in order to get her out of the house, mainly, so she can spend her days traveling the mountain on the back of a little horse, delivering books to people. She works with a group of other women who are kind of misfits in their own way, and the bonds that they form together are just so wonderful. There are 2 other men side characters in here that I just absolutely loved the way that they treated the women in their lives. I just thought that this was so well done. There is a situation later on in the book where somebody dies and one of the women is accused of this crime. And so it was really cool to see how they all bonded together around her to support her. And so we had a little bit of that courtroom drama, the law situation that happened towards the end. It drew me in right from the beginning, and it kept me wanting to turn the pages. And I really grew to care about these different characters. I was proud of them at times for standing up for themselves. I was frustrated with the situations that they had been placed in. Yeah, just really interesting time of our country's history to read about. I think it takes place in the 1950s, I want to say, or 60s. I guess it doesn't really say. I don't know exactly. I think it's the 1950s that the Packhorse Library Project happened. But I definitely can recommend this book, and it was definitely my favorite book of the month. So there you have it. That is the 24 books that I read in the month of July. Kind of tried to wrap it up pretty quickly because I had talked about a lot of them before. What was your favorite book in the month of July? Did you have any of the same thoughts as me about any of these books, or different thoughts as me? I would love to chat with you down in the comments below. I do not expect to have a 24 book month again anytime soon. So we'll see, but that was definitely a fun reading month. Even though I did read 24 books, only 3 of them were 5-star reads for me. The Giver of Stars, Lion, A Long Way Home, and The Penderwicks, third book in the Penderwick series. All the rest were 3 or 4-star reads, so it was a decent reading month overall. I wish there were a few more 5 stars because I read so much, but I'm happy with that. Let's chat down in the comments below about these books or about anything else you want to talk about. You guys know I love talking with you down there, and I will be talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.